Today on Midlife Conversations, I'm doing something a little different. I've got my husband here, Brooks. Brooks, say hi.
Hello.
And we are going to do a little update, a life update, what's been happening. I want to talk about Europe. I was sharing as we were traveling through Europe, and many of you messaged me questions. You now want my husband to be your travel agent, all the things. So I thought, let me just do this conversation with Brooks. We're going to tell you all about what we learned, what we saw, what we noticed, how we planned it. But we're also going to talk about things we're doing now that we're in the crazy heat of Arizona, because that's where we live right now, to stay fit, keep things healthy, all the things. We got a lot of things we're going to be talking about today. So thanks for joining us. And Brooks, thanks for jumping on with Midlife Conversations today.
You're welcome.
So
Excited to.
so much to, so much to fill you in on. I'm going to start with just what why we ended up going to Europe and what happened there, and how I feel like a ding dong that it's been 30 years since I had actually been in Europe. I actually went there after college. I did like a fun backpacking tour situation with one of my good friends years ago, 30 years ago. And I don't really have a good answer for why I had not made it back. And Brooks, you had been to Europe years ago too, right? When did you go?
I went in 2002, 2003.
And then when I went right after college, I did 13 countries. And I remember going there, I was 22 years old, 21 years old, 22 years old, actually. My dad had just passed away. I remember this. And um, I remember I stood out like a sore thumb as an American because I had remember those big white bunchy Reebok socks people would wear? They look like leg warmers. Was wearing those, and I had like my Reeboks with like the little Velcro straps. And I wore these big at the time, this is what was in this big, huge, oversized University of Maryland sweatshirt, a big, huge scrunchie on my head. And I was backpacking, so I couldn't bring a lot. So that was pretty much my uniform. And I remember everywhere I walked throughout Europe at that time, people would be like, Americana, Americana. And I was giggling because my husband and I, when we got there, we're going to talk about the packing situation and the travel in a minute. But when we got there, we were walking one day in Spain, and somebody pointed at us, probably me, and they said Americana. And I was giggling because I realized it's because I had leggings on and a tank top
And
and sneakers. I was at leisure, athletic, and that's not a thing in Europe. That's not what they walk around in. We were in Spain, and everyone was like dressed to the nines in their pretty flowy skirts. So Brooks, I
no,
said it, and then
they're not dressed to the nines, but they're not just living in workout gear like we seem to do in the United
they're
States.
dressed a lot nice. They look nicer. Like women were wearing skirts and like sundresses.
No, for sure.
They were a little dapper. They were more dapper, just like, well, we have so much to share. Like when we went in the dressing room and they brought you those pinstripe shorts. But but wait, I don't want to get too far off track here. So I didn't like that they called me Americana. I'm like, I want to look Spanish. I want to fit in. So Brooks was super supportive. We went into the store. We did.
As if my wife needs an excuse to go shop. It just so happens she's like, I'm not going to look like an Americana. So,
But hold on, we found a whole bunch of clothes. I bought like a whole new wardrobe in the store, like a jumpsuit, skirts, and what did we spend? Seriously.
so I got to be honest. We go in this store and there was this nice blue. I mean, I don't know what you call it, a jumpsuit.
It was a jumpsuit.
It was a jumpsuit. And I looked at it and I looked at the price tag. It was like $16.90. And that's euros. So add another 9 or 10%, whatever the exchange rate is on the given day. But everything in the store, I mean, it was well made quality stuff, but the prices were amazing. So I
Yeah.
think Natalie literally got 5 or 6 outfits and a couple other pieces, and we were literally out the door for 87 euros.
And I was like a superhero because I like slid in all Americana with my leggings and my sneakers and my tank top and my scrunchie or whatever, the baseball cap. Let me add that to it. And then
Yes.
I slid out of the store because I went to and I changed. I had a jumpsuit on. I bought a purse. I fit in. So I walked in looking Americana. I walked out looking like I fit in Spain.
Yeah, you had a hat, a purse. I mean, the only time on that one you didn't get any new shoes, but it
But we
was
did shortly
fun.
after.
I know. There's
I had to make sure the shoes worked because I
we
had
after we
sneakers on.
left that store, we made it about a block and a half, and then it was a intersection in Caddy Corner. There was the shoe store, and
Yeah. And then I looked Spanish. It was perfect. It looked so the funny thing is Brooks found this blue shirt that he really loved. And they had a medium and they had an extra large. but the medium was too tight and the extra large was way too big. But it was a perfect shirt for Brooks. It matched your eyes. It was like amazing. So Brooks was like, we sat in the store contemplating for like probably 30 minutes. Could
I
we
don't
make the
think it's
medium
that.
or the extra large work? But the funny thing, and I don't want to get too far ahead, but the funny thing was when we ended up like saying we're gonna find this shirt in another store in Europe, which we ended up finding. But when we went to the other store in Europe, they picked up matching pinstripe shorts. And we're like, we're not that ready to like I just can't put you in a pinstripe jacket and
Well,
pinstripe shorts.
it was so I tried on that shirt. They had the large, which is great. They had this nice seersucker jacket, which it's I've been to events where you had to wear seersucker, so it's cool, but it's one of those things like I don't really need it because you only use it maybe once every couple years. So I was just pulling on this jacket just to see how it fit. And then the guy comes over and brings me like the matching seersucker shorts that would go with it. And me in the right place, like I would totally rock it. But I was like, I couldn't see myself coming back to America
No.
rocking
In Arizona.
shorts,
In
rocking
Arizona, in like the
shorts.
country of Arizona. Yeah, it wasn't gonna work. It wasn't gonna work. Okay, but I got a little off track there. I knew that was gonna happen, but I want to talk to you about the travel, you all, because I'm a travel snob. And so the reason we ended up going to Europe is my daughter, who I share custody with her dad, we have since she was a baby. My daughter and her dad's whole side of the family, they were going to Europe for 2 months this summer. So they planned this whole amazing European vacation. And I'm super close with her bonus mom and my ex and all that. And they said, instead of me not seeing my daughter for 2 months, what if we overlap a little? Like Brooks and I had not been to Europe. What if we go there and we overlap our trips a little bit? So I get to hang out with her and them for a little while too. So that's how this even happened. So Brooks and I were going to plan this trip, and he was kind of holding back on like, do we really need to do all this? Because I'm a travel snob, y'all. Like I'm a travel snob. If I'm going to fly, if we're involving over water and it's a long situation, I need the lay down seat. I just do. I'm 52 years old. That's what I require. I want to lay down flat. I want to get on. I want to take a little Tylenol PM or something. And then I want to zonk out and I want to wake up like I did when we went to Australia. I just want to wake up.
See,
So
she said it correctly. They're saying she goes, I want to lay down because we always have this husband wife between needs and wants, but that's a whole nother.
well, one can argue that I need to, because if you want me to be happy and nice, I need to. So when we went to Australia, we did like the whole lay down seats, and Brooks liked it too. He liked it.
I never, nobody, it's not about not liking it. Like, who wouldn't want to be, you know, who doesn't want to fly first class? Who doesn't want to get picked up in chauffeur driven Bentleys? But it comes down, you
So
pay for it.
so here was the problem. So Brooks agreed that we're going to go, and now us going overseas is kind of an ordeal. Like we got to figure out our business, we got to figure out our dog. There's a lot of things we got, like anyone, we have to figure out a whole situation here. So we're looking, and it's not cheap just to go travel Europe, but we're looking at flights, and there's like a world of difference between economy and first class. But hold on, there's a world of difference. And Brooks is like telling me these prices, and it's basically like someone's year-long salary. I got it. It's expensive. But so he's like, we're not doing this. Let's do something in between. Let's do something in between. Like there's something called premium economy. And I said, my attitude is no, let's just find a way to pay for it. We'll just generate something else. Let's pay for it. So we think different. He's like, let's save. And I'm like, no, let's just generate more. So we had this like ongoing discussion for a few weeks about this, didn't we?
Yeah. And then I'll share my side of this because
Oh, well, what's your side? I want to hear it.
so let me just get some context. So for these flights, you had economy that was 1,800 bucks. The premium economy was 3,600 bucks. And it's not always the case, but for these particular flights, to go up to business class was $13,700 per person.
So it's going
So,
to cost us somebody's
so
salary,
basically,
basically.
it cost us the total for both of our flights was 6,600 bucks for premium economy, and it would have been 27,500 for both of us to do it the other way.
So we waited a while on booking the flight because I was being a brat, and I said, I need to fly in comfort, and this is what I want, and this is what's happening, and we're just going to do that. And Brooks was like, when you were like decide something, I always talk about deciding, like when you decide something and you're stuck. Well, Brooks and I had both decided different decisions. I decided we were flying first class there. It was just going to happen. He decided that we were going to do premium economy and I was going to like it. So his decision won, but I want to share this. I want to apologize publicly to my husband because it actually was really nice. Premium economy was nice. It's like it was like regular first class in the US.
It's better than
It was
regular
between,
first class.
yeah, they served us two meals. They were big gushy seats. Like we had TV the whole time. So it really wasn't a big deal. So if you're thinking you want to fly to Europe and you're a brat like me and you're like, oh, I will only go, but you don't want to spend $26,000 on your tickets, look at premium economy because it actually was nice. It was fine. I survived it. I survived it.
And so this is my thing. So you just say one person. So if you go from 3,300 bucks or 3,600, whatever, I think it was 3,300 for the premium economy, like that $10,000 delta, in my mind, that's $10,000 to be slightly more comfortable for 12 hours of flying, or you could stay in $1,000 a night hotel for 10 nights
Well,
for the
well, we're
same.
not saying that I've changed my tune forever. We're just sharing that I'm open-minded now. And it worked for us because we flew first to Philadelphia during the day. And then so the flight was actually like 6 hours, maybe seven from Philadelphia to Lisbon.
I
So it
wish
wasn't.
social media we could take a poll. Like we could put a poll in the podcast to see what the viewers think.
Well, I'm just telling them if they've been not going to Europe because they're worried about that, you can rest assured that it was amazing. And I actually, it was fine. Now, you guys are like, well, why didn't you use points? Well, Brooks looked at points. It was literally going to be 1 million points, and I'm not exaggerating. Wasn't it going to be like 1 million points to
Here's the deal
use?
with, I mean, I'm not the super points expert, but we had some points with the airlines and we also had Amex points. And it all comes down to dollar value. So if you're, I mean, there's times I've looked at other flights where that same business class ticket for us for the dates that we were going that was 13,700. Sometimes that business class ticket's 5 or 6 grand. So the whole points, it's also tied in with the price, and it just we were on the early cusp of going into the peak season. Plus, you got the Olympics coming up in Europe later, but because we flew out on May 29th. And so that's getting into the you're getting into the cusp of the peak season over there, which really hits mid-July, which is when
Mhm.
we were coming back through August.
So we made it there. We did it. We made it there. And I got to give it to my husband because what we did, our plan was we were gonna explore Portugal. That was our only plan. And we had booked, Brooks had booked a few nights in Lisbon, which I think was plenty, by the way. Like I don't know that you need more than three
Yeah, we did.
nights in Lisbon. Yeah,
Yeah.
three was good. Depends what you love, but it's a big city. I mean, it was cool. It was fascinating. One of the things that we did, which I highly recommend if you ever go to Lisbon, is we hired like a private tour situation where they took us to like all the local beach towns and then to the palaces, which was wild. That
Yeah.
was awesome.
Cascais, and Sintra.
But the actual city of Lisbon is a big old city. It's cool. It's just like it's more than a couple of days of walking around it. And you're like, okay, I'm ready for the next thing. So what we did was we planned a few nights there, and then we planned one night at this place, the Algarve region of Portugal, which is the south part of Portugal, which I could live at forever. It was like my dream. It was basically San Diego, but not crowded. And you all know I love San Diego. I lived there for 20 years. It was that, but not crowded, empty. So beautiful. So we check in one night there, and the plan was we were going to kind of see where we wanted to float to, what we want to do next. But we walked in, and it was like a kid opening their presents on Christmas. I'm sure Brooks can tell you his version, but my eyes were so big. I'm like, I need to stay here. I don't want to leave. I want to be here more than one night. So what do we do?
So we ended up extending at that place not once but twice. So let me just back up. So when we had Natalie's like, I want to go to Portugal, and I was kind of like, what do you want? She's just like, I just want to go to Portugal. You figure it out. I was like,
I
awesome. So
mean, I just
like,
knew I wanted to go.
like trying to figure it out, and then
I
so
volunteered to hire a travel person agent. You just said you like to do it.
I said I'll figure it out, but then I just had to get it okay because basically what we did is when we flew into Lisbon, we did 3 nights in Lisbon, and then that Sunday we went back to the airport and picked up a rental car because just so you know, picking up and dropping off a rental car at the same place is way cheaper than doing point to point or any of that stuff. And since you certainly do not need a car in Lisbon because it's a big city, you're just going to pay for parking, you're not going to use it. So we picked it up on our way out on Sunday, drove down to Garvey. And so that was why I only booked one night because now I was like, I want to see all of Portugal. And it's really hard to kind of plan where, if you haven't been to these places, how many nights do you need to be at a place? And I looked, there was enough flexibility for finding rooms or whatever. So I wasn't worried about that. So I was like, all right, because the Algarve, think of the Algarve as kind of like Southern California. It's about 100 miles wide.
Mhm.
That's kind of like saying, I'm going to go to Southern California. Well, that's going to take you from South LA, Orange County down to San Diego.
Mhm.
There's a lot of beaches there. So I didn't know if we wanted to hop, but it just turns out this first place was absolutely amazing.
So, so I want to tell you guys where we stayed too, just so you know. Like, so the first place we stayed at in Lisbon was the Intercontinental, and we used points for that. We used American Express points. Brooks was a ninja with that, and but
Awesome
the key
location.
was the top. That how you upgraded us to the top room. That
Well, I
room,
upgraded so that we had a huge balcony. If you followed
a
navigation,
whole huge view of
had a
Lisbon.
huge balcony, so it was worth the upgrade. And it's literally right across from a park. It's right next door to the Four Seasons, which is
You could
like
we walked everywhere.
4 to 5 times the amount. But the Intercontinental was great. The food was great. Their breakfast buffet was great. The people, everything there was great. And you could walk everywhere from there. Like the main little shopping area, super safe and easy to walk to. You could walk all the way down to the water from there.
And then
So
where was the name? Villa Vita Park. Is that, did I say it right?
Villa Vita Park.
Villa
It's
Vita is where we
Villa
stayed
Vita
in the
Park.
Algarve. You all,
PARC.
Pierre, you all, this was, I've been in a lot of nice resorts. This was the nicest resort I have ever experienced. I did not want to leave. If you ever can't find me, that's where I am at. I could have stayed there the rest of my life. I was so
Natalie,
happy
she
there.
said she wanted to live there. Like
I want
she's
to live
like,
there. I said, I will work at this resort. I will literally work here just so I can be at this resort every day. I'm going to be the person teaching a little fitness class in the background. That's going to be me because I would like to retire and live there. It's amazing.
it
It was
really
amazing.
it was really nice. The rooms are great, the food's amazing, and just it's on the cliffs there. And it's got 5 or 6 different pools. It's got a gym.
So this is where we
Like
started to
got
notice
12 or 15 restaurants. There's a Michelin star restaurant there.
so that that I couldn't eat at. But I've got the funny story about that. So Brooks is like they had like a bunch of restaurants on this property and there everything was good. Everything was amazing, but you have to have a reservation. And one of them is a Michelin star restaurant. And he's like, it's very hard to get into. We were on a wait list. We actually somehow got in. Brooks enrolled them in letting us in. We go up to eat, we sit down, we open the menu. And first of all, it's like going to be like $500 a person easily before.
It was 275 because this is the thing. It's not a menu that you order from. It's basically like there's two choices and there's two 15-course tasting menus. Like you don't, it's not like going, oh, I want this. You don't order, you get A or B, and then you have three choices. You can get alcohol, premium alcohol, or
Which we
non-alcoholic.
don't drink, by the way.
And we
So,
don't drink.
but
So even the non-al, so it was 275 a person, and then the non-alcoholic was 120 or 125 bucks. So
so see, it was going to be like at
you're
least.
looking at 400 bucks a person before tip.
So, okay, so we open the menu and I'm a celiac. So I even though the Europe food's amazing, which we're going to talk about in a minute, everywhere, I still cannot have gluten or wheat even in Europe because I'm actually a celiac. But it's never an issue. Like I go to a restaurant, I typically look at what I can have and if I ask for a slight modification. So I'm looking at the menu and literally everything on the menu is questionable. So and they don't have a lot of choices. You have to just pick your tasting. Like it's like either protein or a vegan. So I said, I'm a celiac and he's like, "Oh, the waiter. I'm like, what do you mean? Oh, he says, we don't accommodate for celiacs here. I'm like, what do you mean? Can you just, what, there looks like there's things that cannot have sauce. It's like, well, we don't adjust anything. So they should have told you when you book this. So I'm like, first of all, I'm starving, but I'm trying to take one for the team. So I'm like, well, Brooks, and he knew he was so excited to eat there. I'm like,
And
you can eat. I'll just
not
sit
just that,
here.
the pictures of this place. Like it was called Ocean, and it on this property probably had the best view of any place on the property. And then the way the inside was decorated with the blues and the whites. I mean,
It was awesome. But Brooks
there
looked.
was only 12, I think I counted, there's 12 or 13 tables in the entire place.
So long story short, we didn't get to eat there. My glass of champagne, my one glass of champagne, they gave on me, and they hired us. Got us a little golf cart thing to drive us to someplace else, and then we went and sat with all the families and the little kids since we didn't have a reservation. That's what happened. So we didn't get to. But I said, look, we saved $1,000. We saved $1,000.
We did.
We did. So my celiac saved
It's
us
kind of
money.
funny when Natalie talks about, oh, we saved $1,000, and I'm
But we did. See,
I like it
I
when you
contributed.
rationalize, oh, we're saving $1,000.
Yeah.
Because
So
Natalie, on
we
the
did
other
that.
hand, loves experiences.
But so let's get into some things that we noticed in Europe, though, and then we'll continue like telling you where else we went. But the first thing I want to share that we noticed, well, first of all, you already heard from the beginning, no leggings. Do not pack leggings when you go to Europe unless you want to stand out as a major American. They don't wear, that's not a thing there. Don't wear leggings. The next thing we noticed was the driving. And Brooks is going to talk about this because look, he gets excited. Y'all, people do not drive slow in the left lane there. Brooks, carry on. Tell him what you noticed.
It was sublime driving there, especially once you get out of the city. The cities are always crowded and you get traffic. But once you get out on the 4 lane roads where there's just 2 lanes on each side, they do have speed limits, but the overriding rule is slower traffic, keep right. And so like even if you pass a car and there's a car way up there that you're going to eventually pass, you don't stay in left lane, you move over. You just
Mm-mm.
constantly move over. And here's the
Um,
thing, even I got passed. I got passed, I think 3 times during the
so
whole trip. Then I just found somebody that I was like, oh, well, if you can go that fast, and then I would just
Well, let
then
me
they would
paint the
pass.
picture here because when we're driving here, this is what it's typically like. So Brooks is a trained race car driver. Let me just leave it at that. So I know he's safe. I know he's got the things, but still, I'm a total backseat driver. So when we're driving here, this is what it's like. Brooks is like, "Oh, why is this person in front of me going so slow in the left lane?" He says that out loud every time, and he makes the
I
faces.
don't do it every time.
And then he pulls up right up on their butt. And then they end up flicking him off and getting all mad. And then Brooks and I end up in an argument. This is like an ongoing situation when we drive. In Europe, it was very pleasant and peaceful. You know why? Because every time Brooks approached up, they just moved over and they'd wave at him. Hi, have a good day. Like no one cares. It's just a thing. They move over.
Like
They
we
move
have the
over.
signs in America, slower traffic, keep right. But to me, it's the easiest concept ever, but somehow it just people
If
don't do it.
if Brooks ever becomes a cop, which I don't think he will, but if he ever does, we talked about all he would do all day long. This is all he would do. He would win the award for most tickets written for people driving slow in the left lane.
Yeah, I would just
That's all you would do.
eating the flow of traffic. Like, here's the deal. It doesn't matter if you're transporting a minivan full of kids or fine china or wedding cakes. Just move over. Just move
Okay,
over.
so
It's
the other thing we notice, well, so then we drive from Algarve, which I you had to pull me away from that place. I did not want to leave, but I know there was more to see. So we drove from the Algarve down to Jerez, Spain, and this was flipping cool. Now, how did you find this
El
place?
Fontana.
Yeah, how did you find it?
I found it because my good buddy Dieter, who's from Germany, and he's also, if you need a good Porsche person and you're in San Diego, go see Dieter up at Hollan because we also got your car from him. I've known Dieter for like 15 years. So he's a really good friend of mine. And he had been in that town with his family. And he's in the place that we stayed at. I guess they stayed next door, but they just studied. He goes, if you go back, he goes, you have to stay at this place.
What
And
was it called? The place.
it
I
was
took a picture of it. I'll have to put it in the.
it was something Maria Louise
You guys,
something.
it was the
Like,
coolest looking hotel
I
I've
have
ever
to look
seen.
at it because I can say it really cool.
It was so cool. It was like total. And the funny thing is, we're sitting in the garden having wine and cheese because I did drink wine in Europe because we were in Europe. You had to have wine and cheese in Europe. And we're sitting in the garden. And I said, I love how they decorated it so Spanish here. And Brooke starts laughing. And he's like, because we're in Spain. But I liked the Spanish decor and they did a good job.
And
But
what
I guess
was
that's
really cool about it's a smaller town. It's about I can't remember. I think it was about an hour south of Sevilla. Um, but on the inside there's like a walking zone. So there's literally no
a
cars.
walking city. Yeah, you
Yeah,
could
it's
just
like a
walk
walking
everywhere.
city where there's like inside the walls. I mean, yes, like there's special exceptions for like a delivery
Yeah,
truck, things like that, but
but they can't do.
there's no, I mean, you can just that's the one I probably could have spent another night there just
I wish we had one more night there because we did that quick and that was a cool hotel.
yeah, because basically we got there about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we spent that night, and then we left the next day about 11 or noon. So we were there about 24 hours. But if I had a full day, so 2 nights there would have been perfect.
It was cool. So we loved that. So this is when I started to like really notice some things. So in the Algarve, you're like really in a beach town. So I didn't notice it as much. But in Lisbon and then in Jerez, you really notice number one, I'm going to say the negative first. The negative is people smoke a lot. Like cigarette smoke is heavy and so is perfume. Like all I could smell was perfume and cigarettes, perfume and cigarettes. But here's the wild thing, y'all. There was no obesity. I did not see any obese people. There was no obesity. It's an American thing. I felt like
But they were all Americans or Britons.
if they were,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the
it
thing,
was.
like, yeah, there's a lot of people, but here's the thing that you still can't smoke indoors there. At least I
But they
didn't,
do
I don't,
smoke outdoors a lot.
yeah, but that doesn't bother me as much. But I mean, yeah, there was definitely people smoking, but yeah, the only overweight people really were Americans or Britons.
Which got us thinking because like why? Like why do we have an epidemic here and we don't seem to have it there? Now, I can't speak for all of Europe. We were in Portugal and Spain. But what we saw is one, people were way more active. Like they walk everywhere. Walking is just a thing. Like we just even tracking our steps, we definitely got in a lot more than we do here on a daily basis. Plus the food, like anything you eat there, there's a list of 2,000 chemicals we learned that America, United States allows in their food and cosmetics that are banned in the UK, that are banned in Europe, in the EU in general. So their food is a lot healthier. So just like you would have dairy here and maybe be bloated and have a stomach ache, you don't have that problem there. Same thing, a lot of people other than celiacs could eat wheat there and not have the same issue. The food is better quality and you could taste it. It tasted different.
Yeah, the food quality, but the other thing I think they have is the portion sizes.
Oh yeah, that's true. The portion
Like,
sizes were normal. They were like small, a lot smaller.
well, I mean, we say small, but it's the portion size that you need because, again, let's be honest, 70% of the people in the United States are overweight or obese. So we like even say we're like, oh, it's small. It's not small. It's the appropriate portion that our bodies actually need.
So I think there's a lot of reasons for it. And I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole here, but I think portions, I think people are more active. I think the quality of food is totally different there, totally different there. I think people, there's less stress because people work to live. They don't live to work. That was super evident. Like people take naps, they're more family time. It's like people are living different. But then I also think the whole healthcare thing is completely different. Like we are run by pharmaceutical here and they can't advertise pharmaceuticals there. And so if you follow money, a lot of times you're going to see that I think there's a profit in people being sick here.
It's a huge business.
Huge business.
They make
So
money
just
getting you sick and then make money with the sick care. And
so for the first time, I mean, I'm definitely I could say I'm proud to be an American, but I was kind of embarrassed to be American at times over there. I'm not gonna lie. Like I would look at how we've been taught, how we live versus what I was seeing there, and it was definitely different. It was definitely different. So we left Jerez, Spain. We didn't spend enough time there. I would have liked one more day there. And we went to say it, Brooks. How did you say it? The rock.
no, you
Say
gotta
it. Say it. Say it in your accent first.
I
Say it in your
will, but I
accent.
have to say we went down to Gibraltar.
Okay, but every
Here's the
time
thing,
we'd go down to
Gibraltar,
Gibraltar,
Gibraltar is it's actually a British territory. It's a British territory on the most southern part of Europe, on the very tip of Spain. It's right across from Africa. So there's about,
it's
I think
super
it's like
cool.
9 miles, so you can literally see Africa. And I just remember it from a kid because the Strait of Gibraltar was basically the gateway to the Mediterranean. Like it was a huge military, like a lot of history there. And so I wanted to go see the Rock of Gibraltar.
So he kept going, the Rock of Gibraltar. But which
Or
is funny because when we were in Arizona, when we were in Australia, in Sydney, we found this beach called Manly Beach. And Brooks kept
Manly
going, yeah.
Beach.
So every trip he has a little accent term that he'll use. So he would go
I just
Manly Beach.
cool. Do you want to go to Manly Beach?
So this time it was the Rock of Gibraltar.
Rock of Gibraltar.
So we did that, and I would have changed that up a little bit too. So what we did was we drove there. We left our place in Spain, drove there, took several hours to get there, and then got
It's about a
there.
90-minute drive.
Okay. Oh, it was not. Oh, I have our trips
Yeah,
mixed
because
up of what was longer. Okay.
no,
So
because the one from the Algarve to Jerez was
that
about
was
three and
longer.
a half hours, and then we were an hour and a half down to
the Rock of Gibraltar. So
Well,
we got there and this is what we did, and this is what we would have done different. What we did was we checked in, we ate a little lunch because I got to eat, and
you ate
then
a lunch.
I ate a little lunch looking at the Rock of Gibraltar. Then we walked to the Rock of Gibraltar, and then we took a little tram ride up to the top because it goes pretty high up. And then when you get to the top, there's these amazing views, and then you hike or walk all the way down, but your whole way down, there's like cool things to see. Now, the coolest thing to see, Brooks was all into the history. The coolest thing for me to see was the monkeys. They had wild monkeys everywhere you all, and they like climb on you and stuff. They were cool. Brooks took a selfie with one and then he got a little too close and the monkey shoved him.
I got a little cocky because I was getting pretty close to the monkeys, and after like
It was
several
so
monkeys,
funny.
and this one monkey, like we were kind of touching, I was like, I'm gonna see if I can get even closer, and he just kind of like
He
he got
shoved him
kind of
and
like
he has a scratch on his arm from it.
a
It
little
was
bit.
so funny. And I was filming it and I shut off the camera right before he shoved you. I was so mad.
So I did
That would
have.
have been great. Yeah, it did have. It was so funny. So that was my favorite part. But here's what I would have done different because it took us several hours to like really explore and walk down and see. You could see some cool things, and you could see Africa from the top. That was really wild. But if you're listening to this and you want to go do the Rock of Gibraltar, what I would do is I would have driven there the night before. I would have gotten up early and I would have hiked up to the top because you could do it. It's paved. It's not, I mean, it's steep, but you could do it. All levels were doing it. You
Yeah.
would hike up to the top. You'd have lunch at the top. They sell
Well,
ice cream up
at the
there.
bottom, you have to get the $19 pass because basically it's $38 to get, which includes the $19 to go up and down on the tram, and then $19 for the pass that gets you in all the things on the Rocket Rock. Like, yeah, you can just go walk the street up there, but you can't go into or see or do any of the cool stuff without the $19 pass. So you definitely have to get that down at the bottom. So I would do that. And the reason we paid for the tram up and down is because it was $36 to take the tram up, or it was $39 to be able to take it down. So the extra three
We just
bucks
had it in case,
case,
but we
like
didn't need it.
we didn't need it.
But it was awesome. And then so that was cool. And then the next thing that we did after the Rock of Gibraltar, because we only stayed there briefly, like we didn't want
We're
to
just there
stay
that
any
whole
longer
day. We
there.
just, like there's awesome history there. There's these World War. Natalie's, would you have a blister? Your knee was bothering you. So like she waited and I went, and they had these World War II tunnels that go into the mountain where you could see where they'd shoot cannons out of there. So there's a lot of history there than just going to the top and seeing the views. There's an amazing cave that's in there that's pretty incredible. And there's a lot of historical stuff that I was really enjoying coming down.
And then the final place we went, this was super cool. Brooks found a farm to table, and he's going to tell you about it in a second. But what I'm going to tell you about it first is it was super cool. And the only thing I had a hard time with was there were cows everywhere. I love cows. Like it's truly farm to table. So there are cows everywhere. And I love cows. Like I feel them. I'm like, so I'm like, how do people eat these? I couldn't with that. So that was my only complaint there. But talk about this place because it was pretty cool.
Yeah, so because originally I was looking at, there's a town called, I thought it was Evora, but I guess it's Evora. Um, and I was looking for some stuff there, and somehow I stumbled across this hotel. It's not even really a hotel, but it's called São Lourenço de Boracay. And it's been in this family for over 200 years. And it's basically a 2,000-acre farm, and it's certified organic, 100% farm to table. Um, they make their own wine, they make their own olive oil, and I think there's only about 30 rooms slash cottages that they have there, and they've all been converted from parts of the farm. So there's a farm area, there's a vineyard area. I mean, it's all in, but they just kind of converted everything.
It was really peaceful and pretty and cool. But I had to get past it. I was like, how do you, because I even asked the guy, we went on a little tour there. And I'm like, and the cows are raised amazing, by the way. They're like grass fed, they roam, they have like 2,000 acres. They treat them well. So I was like, well, how long do the cows get to live? And he's like, started out good. He's like, well, 10 to 15 years. He goes, but the babies don't have it so well, the calves. And
He
I was
did
like, oh,
so
he said
well.
they don't get to live as long. And then I was sad because they have veal on
That's
their
just
menu.
as you can tell, of all the things here, when Natalie gets something stuck on, she stays on
Yeah.
track. So,
Yeah. So I wouldn't let my husband order veal. It's true. I was bossy and I was like, please don't order the veal. I can't. That's their baby cows. I couldn't do it.
but the other thing is too is yes, they're baby cows, but a lot of times it's baby cows where it's like there's some issue or something with them.
Do you want me to start crying, Brooks?
All
There's
I know, babe, like
other
you
than
could just
that,
like if
most of you don't get stuck on thoughts like this like I do. But yes, but their vegetables and their fruit and their eggs, everything was so good there. Their
we got to see
cheese,
where they grow all of it, like all their herbs, all their
wild.
spices, everything. They have an amazing chef on there. I mean, literally everything comes from there.
So Brooks and I mean, I absolutely loved our trip. We were there for 2 weeks exactly, or actually like one day short of 2 weeks. We were there.
It was
Um,
the whole trip was 2 weeks. That includes the flying days.
well, we went Wednesday to a Tuesday, Wednesday to the following Tuesday to 2 weeks.
Just 2 weeks, 14 days.
I would have liked a little bit longer there, but we missed flops. We had to get back. So I think we'll probably go back and explore Europe probably in September. We want to do a little bit more. But so some of the big takeaways that I had, like bringing Europe home with me, was I was like, I'm going to wear less leggings. I'm going to stick to what I know with eating. But I'm going to be really more aware of that, like even more aware of what's going into things. I'm not going to start smoking, even though everyone smokes over there. That's not
Everyone
going
does
to happen.
smoke. It's just more, it's yes, people smoke there, but
I did start forming a crazy cappuccino habit over there. So we get to figure, and a gelato habit. We formed a coffee and gelato habit, and we have an ice cream maker on our counter now that Brooks ordered, because we're gonna be that person that makes gelato now. We're gonna do it. We're gonna
yeah,
make it.
I always enjoy, and
So
that's what I
here's
gelato or ice
the
cream. And that
epiphany
was
I
the other,
had.
yeah.
I was at the epiphany that I had was that, like, a lot of what you and I have believed about fat loss, like it just became even more evident in Europe. And what was wild is I was, gosh, a lot of people in Europe don't need what I teach because they live this here. They live this here. And we've gotten so backwards over here. And I like just the rise of so many things wrong in our health. And like, I didn't see, and again, we didn't travel all of Europe. I can't speak for every country, every area, but we just didn't see it. It seemed very different.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it goes back to the portion sizes. Yes, the food quality and everything else, but the portion sizes are way more in
And
line.
then, but lifestyle too. Like I feel like the less stress. Also, the water. I mean, here we have like this purified water junk. Like there, everything was mineral or spring water.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. So it's just simple. It was just simple.
Oh, and I forgot about their ham.
Oh, yeah. Tell them about the ham because
Spain
you
is
loved it.
known for their Iberian ham. Think of it as basically like the Wagyu of ham. And I forget, there's a special protocol that they feed all the pigs, but then basically after their whatever, I hate Natalie gets, but they salt it for 2 weeks and then they let it cure for 2.5 to 4 years. And like the color, and like, so I was getting the Iberian black ham wherever I saw it on the menu. And I had it at a Michelin star place. It was phenomenal. Phenomenal.
So we're gonna link. I know because so many people messaged on, at least on Instagram and Facebook, asking like, where did we stay? Where did all the things? So I'm gonna link in the show notes. We're gonna put a little link to the blog that has us talking about all this, but then has a link to all the different places, just in case you want to do kind of our itinerary or know exactly what we did. And let us know if you liked this format, because if so, maybe we'll do another one when we get back from when we go back and do it again. Speaking of health, fat loss, all the things. Brooks, did you gain any weight on the trip?
No, I mean so obviously when I got back home, I showed not like I literally had cankles. That was just from
You
being
did have
up
cankles from the
flying.
plane.
So that's into when you go on a trip. So I said I'm going to give myself 24 to 36 hours. I mean, I weighed myself when I got back and I was definitely heavier, but I knew it was all water weight. Like I could
Mhm.
feel it in my ankles. And then by the next morning, I'd lost 4 pounds, but that's again, this is just water weight. This is not body fat. And then, after I'd been back a day or so, I didn't gain or lose anything, but I got 5 or 6 good weight workouts in there, plus the walking and So yeah,
So I ate gelato every single day. I had a full fat cappuccino every single day. I definitely ate whatever the heck I wanted over there. And I had, they didn't have, well, they didn't, I couldn't eat gluten, but I had gluten-free bread with olive oil. And I'm talking like so much olive oil. I was like swimming in olive oil, swimming in it. In fact,
like
Brooks laughed because they would fill up my little container and I'd be like, can I have more? Can I have more?
they
Can-
brought us both the same little container of olive oil. She had gluten-free bread. I had gluten bread. And I ate my entire loaf of gluten bread and still had a little bit of olive oil left. She had
I was swimming in it.
one piece of her bread and all of her olive oil was gone.
But my point behind this is I got on the scale this morning. Sure, I was like, I must have gained at least 5 pounds and I hadn't gained anything. And I believe it's because we were eating such high quality food and moving so much. And I believe that's why I only worked out one time when I was there, one day, literally one day. Other than that, it was just walking and sticking to this. But speaking of that, because we're going to wrap because we're right about on the hour here. And I know, well, to be continued, because I think if you all like these kind of conversations, we'll do a little bit more like this to be continued. But one thing I do want to make sure you know about is I do these twice a year, and it happens to be that time where it's coming up again, where I do a fat loss as you age masterclass, where I'm going to teach a lot of tips, which is pretty cool because some of it is just you would learn being in Europe, some of it, but what I'm teaching is some different stuff. And I believe if you learn some of these things, no matter where you're traveling, what you're doing, how you're spending your time, you can age very well and stop the nonsense of the pounds that have to keep creeping up. They don't have to. So I would love for you to attend this free class. It's completely free. If you just go to nataliejillclass.com, you want to save your spot. We've got two of them coming up, nataliejillclass.com. You'll get more of, it'll be interaction on Zoom with me. I'm going to teach you a really simple method. These classes are a hit and get filled up every time I do them. And I only do them twice a year. So nataliejillclass.com. And I will see you there on that fat loss class. And if you want more from me and Brooks together, please let us know in the comments so we know to do more.
And slower traffic, keep right. Thank you very much.
Slower traffic, keep right. And say Rock of Gibraltar one more time.
Rock of Gibraltar.
We'll leave it at that.